Hi there! Welcome my friends. Welcome to my studio. I will be your host for tonight for the creative session with Affinity Photo 2. So I have written some notes in a little piece of paper so I don't forget for the important things that I have to tell you tonight. Yeah, of course. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Felix Hernandez, better known like Hernandez Dreamphography. And what do I do? What do I do? Let me explain it this way. I create dreamlike images by building small or miniature scenes that then I take to the studio for making photographs of them. I know it sounds a little bit strange, but it's really fun. And I have been making this kind of work for many years now and for many brands. Just to name a few, there is Gucci, Mattel, Audi, Volkswagen, Top Gear, Renault, Cadbury, and so on and so on. But maybe you still don't have really a clue what do I do. So I have prepared a small video showing you my process. So let's go to see it and we will come back. So what did you think about the video? Did you like it? I hope you did. So to create my images, there is only one rule. And that rule is that there are no rules. Creativity and experimentation always comes first. So for bringing my ideas to life, sometimes I take my miniature scenes outdoors and I use the real environment as a background. And in other cases, the images are completely created into the studio where I print huge backgrounds and I do the effects on camera. That's called practical effects. But I also love like mixing different techniques. Let's say mixing the analog world with the digital world. And that means that sometimes I just use like a simple scale model shot in the studio over a white background, and all the surroundings and the lighting and effects are done digitally. And that's what brings us now together to this creative session. We are going to make an exercise by using a simple scale model shot over a white background, and we are going to create all the surroundings and all the effects by just using digital brushes in Affinity Photo 2. Of course, I will take you first into the studio where I will show you quickly how I do my setup, my lighting, and how I shoot my scale models. Then we are going to take that image into Affinity Photo 2 to create the rest of the image. I think you are going to love it. By the way, the brushes we are going to use is a set of brushes I have created through the years for doing my images. And these brushes are included with Affinity Photo 2. And I'm also going to include the image we're going to produce in the studio so you can have all the elements to follow this lesson. So that's it. I think it's enough for an introduction. So let's go into the studio and let's create something together. Thank you. Welcome back. Now we are again in the studio, but now it's everything ready for the shooting. I already have my setup back here, and I'm going to show you quickly, briefly, what do we have. So this is the model car we are going to use. This is a 1/18 scale die-cast model, meaning that it's made out of metal. And as you can see, the car is placed in a plexiglass tray that I use to fill with water when I'm making some practical effects. So we are going to go for two shots. One will be with reflex, with the car like inside of the water. And the other one, we are going to use this little machine that creates smog to have kind of a foggy or even snowy background. So that's some practical effects. As you can see, here I have my camera, and I'm shooting with a 24mm lens. This is a tilt and shift lens, meaning that you can manage the depth of field and distortion of right from of the lens. It's fairly close to the subject because it's a wide angle lens. Okay, and this is a really creative lens. I use it for let's say 80% of my images. Of course, we are shooting manually, and the light setup, it's really easy. We have three light sources. One is this big softbox. We are shooting with continuous light. Okay, it's hanging from this boom arm. Okay, this comes from the top, and it has a softbox with a diffuser because we want to achieve a soft light. That's the mood I'm going for this image. And we also have a small light. This is waterproof. It's inside the water. And this will help me to separate a little bit the car from the background. Even it's white, but it will give me a nice edge light in the car. And the final light, it's behind the background. As you can see, for the background, what I'm using is a plexiglass, just a plexiglass sheet. This allows me to put the light, okay, here you can see the light, just behind the background, the plexiglass, and the plexiglass helped me to diffuse the light and have it more equally diffuse it. Okay, it's not going to be completely white. I want a little bit more light in the center. So that's it. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is just to place the camera in one of the corners so you can see a little bit of the shooting and when I'm making the effects with the camera. Okay, so it's a really simple setup. I'm just going to take one first shot, okay, of the car without doing any effect. Okay, that's it. You will see it in a moment in the image, the first image. And for the second one, just going to use this little smoke machine. Now it's on. And I'm going to place gently the fog. I will try not to speak because just with the air of my breath, the smoke will dissipate. So water also helps to keep the fog or smoke in place. Okay, I think that's enough. It looks kind of snow. Second photo, please. You will see it in a while. And that's it. It's just that simple. I mean, maybe for making this image, it took me like 30, 40 minutes to put the setup. And now just making the photo is just, making 2 clicks. That's it. It's kind of hot in here. I'm in Cancun, a lot of humidity. And for recording this, and because I was going to use the fog machine, I just turned out everything. But well, now we are going back to the computer and we will start playing around with those images. So, see you in a while. Here we are again. Now we are in my battle station, and before we go into Affinity Photo 2 to have some fun, I just wanted to show you my setup because I work with a digital display using a digital pen. The brushes that we are going to use into Affinity 2, can be used using the digital pen and of course just a regular mouse. But because the digital pen is pressure sensitive, you will have more control over the digital brushes. But if you don't have one, you don't want to get one, it's totally fine. I, for many, many years, worked just with a mouse, then upgraded for the digital display, makes my life easier. So saying that, let's go to Affinity to create something great. Hi there, we are back in Affinity Photo 2. And before we go into making our photo of the car we shot in the water and with the smoke machine, I just wanted to show you quickly the photo I created of the Donuts and Donuts, just to have a better idea what did I did in post and what did I did on camera. So I know I showed you the video, but that was like really quick. So this is the image, let's say, taken out of camera. All you see here was created for real in the studio. As I told you before, the background you see here is a big printed background. Have to say that the background was also created digitally. It's a combination of a photo of a volcano image. It's not my photo. This is a stock image photo, but the sky, it's of a image I took some time ago, and the smoke coming out from the volcano, that was done using digital brushes, and I will show you in a while when we go working in the other image. And I'm just going to turn the layers on so we can see what we are doing here. So for instance, here I retouched like some little lines that I had from the molding of the donut. So I'm just taking them away. Maybe some lines that we have in the dino. like for example, about here. Of course, the color of the dinos were done digitally, making some masks, really easy. This is some textures and other colors I added to the dinos. Okay, this is the foreground. This I do it in a lot of my images just to add a little bit more of realism and to add depth, because the physics of the lenses that mostly all the lenses, you cannot achieve focus in the first planes. So that's why I normally insert first planes digitally. And of course, this has much realism and detail. These were done with brushes, a simple one. You know, it's like the, how do you call it? The saliva strings of the dinos. I think this guy, yeah, also have another one. And this is just like a regular brush that comes with a Affinity, and just by hand, with a digital pen, drawing the strings. This is adding some fog with some of the brushes I have created that will be available for you, and I will show you in a while. And the rest of the images is where I start doing the color grading. Sometimes I do the color grading in Affinity Photo, just using the adjustment layers. We will do that. And other times I also use some plugins that can be installed within Affinity Photo. So these one are the birds that were also created using the digital brushes. And the lights are also created using different digital brushes, like this one, and this one. This could also be really handy if you are planning to do an animation. You can just work in layers, and after you can animate this individually. So that's it. It was like building the scene. Took about between 2 to 3 weeks, and making the photo shoot maybe took me 2 days, and maybe 1 or 2 days more for making the post-production, just, trying different things to achieve this image. So I'm going to close this file, and we are going to open the 2 images that we took in the studio of the car in the water, and we are going to work with them. So see you in a moment. We are back. Now we have I took like 5 or 6 photos, because we were making different, with the fog, trying different shots. But basically, I have just picked 2 photos, and we are just going to work with one. But both photos will be available for you, so you can choose if you want to work just with the image with the car and the reflection, or the second one, that it's this one with the fog. You see that it kind of also could look like snow, like a snowy winter scape, something like that. You can see, because the lens I was using was really a wide angle lens, my background wasn't big enough, so you can see a little bit of the behind of the background, the corners, but that doesn't matter. We only want like the center of the image. We are going to, just pull a little bit our background to have it complete. But this is what we were looking for, to have almost a complete white background with our foreground, with the smoke or the reflection. And the rest of the image, we are just going to create it using digital brushes and a little bit of imagination. So I think that for this exercise, will be better to work with this one, with the one we have with the reflection. And the other one, I'm just going to close it. The one we want to close is this one. Okay, so we are going to work with this one, but both will be available, so you can choose what you want to do. We're going to start. We are up here in the develop persona, and these photos were shot in RAW. So I'm going to make some just really basic adjustments. Let's start with the contrast. I will normally take away a little bit of contrast. add a little bit of clarity, maybe a little bit less of saturation, just around there. And I think that will be okay there. Now let's go to the lens. Here you have different, depending in which lens you use. Some lenses has a distortion. I'm just going to keep the profile of the lens that I use, but I'm going to reduce. We don't have a lot here, but I'm just to make sure to reduce the chromatic aberration of the lens. There we go. Now in the details, I'm just going to a little bit bigger radius and a little bit more of detail, maybe about 25. And the image is kind of sharp because I was using a really small f-stop and a wide angle lens. So I think that's it. Let me go to basics. And I think here we are going to, I don't know if messing around with the white balance, but I'm sure that I want like my final image look a little bit cold. So I'm going to just lower the temperature, maybe around there. Let's go with the shadows and highlights. I'm going to recover a little bit of the shadows, just about there. And I think I'm going to pull my highlights also a little bit farther, just a little bit. So again, we are in the develop persona. And if you already have done just your general adjustments to your raw image, you can then go to develop and we will go into photo persona and start playing with the image. So let's go. And now, as you can see, we are in photo persona where we have our image, and we will start creating layers and making adjustments to create our final image. And we are going to start like cleaning our image first. I'm just going to duplicate, right click my image 2 times. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. The second image, I'm going to grab the rectangular marquee rule, marquee selection tool, and I'm just going to select about here before we start going into the car, just about there. And I'm going to make a mask. So we are going to mask this, and we are just keeping the right side of the image. I'm going to rasterize and trim, applying that mask. And now I'm just going to stretch it. This is just for cleaning our background. And since we don't have much information, it doesn't matter if it gets distorted. So I'm going to do the same thing for the second layer, but now for the left side. Okay, just about here, and the same thing. Just the mask, deselect that, and just pull it about there. So now we have our image, but of course on top we have the right side and the left side. So this is like a quick and dirty way to just make a little bit more of room and to clean your background. I'm just going to merge everything that is selected, 3 images, and maybe I will do so for the foreground of the image. You see here we have kind of a strange reflection, and I think this is because we are seeing just the edge of the plexiglass of the plexiglass we had in the studio, the plexiglass tray. So I'm going to again just duplicate this image, and again with the marquee tool, just going to select this area just about here, and doing a mask, rasterize and trim, and just going to pull it just a little bit. Okay, we are going to crop this as well. We are going to put different effects, but this is just a way to clean up really easy our image. Okay, before we go on cropping, I want to get rid of these edges as well. And there are many ways to do it, but I think that maybe here with the patch tool or the healing brush, both will work. Let me try with the patch tool to get a little bit closer. I'm just going to grab this about here, and maybe this weird line just about here. It doesn't have to be perfect because we are going to be adding some details and fog and all kind of stuff. So just about there. Just about there. Looking good so far. Of course, you can go, like in depth, like these little details, maybe working with the clone stamp tool, just about here, something like that. But I mean, this is an exercise, so I don't want to take too much time, but you can do it like, with time, you can do it like in a better way. It's just to give you an idea. Maybe right now I will go just cropping the image. Maybe I'm going to first like center it or rotate it a little bit. I think like the horizon is falling, maybe about there, and maybe a little bit to the left, something like that. Yeah, maybe I'm going to duplicate it again, marquee tool, maybe the marquee tool, about there, mask, rasterize and trim, deselect, Control or Command D, just pull it a little bit about there, and there we go. Just going to merge select it. Yeah, maybe now I'm going to crop the image to go more with the, let's say, the rule of thirds, placing my horizon a little bit lower, something like that. And I mean, this depends on you, but I think I will leave it there, something like that. Now I'm going to hit enter, and there we go. This will be the image we are going to work with. And just by, because I'm recording this, and I'm just going to lower the resolution of this image so I can work faster. I will go to document, resize document, and let's say 3000. So I'm going just to resize the image so I can work a little bit faster. Okay, so next step, because we're going to be placing some stuff behind our car, and we will need to make a copy. Let's do a duplicate the layer and to cut out that car. So I'm just going to name this car cut out, and for the other one I'm just going to place like back. So now we are going to cut out this one as well. There are many ways to cut it, but for this one I'm just going to grab the selection brush tool, and this is really simple because we have like a really contrasty background against our main subject. So I'm just going to select including the reflection, something like that. We can zoom in to see if we have skipped something. Maybe something like that. Just a little bit on the top. And again, for this exercise, doesn't have to be perfect, but it looks already pretty cool. So I'm just going to make a mask of this, and we can just rasterize it and trim. I'm doing it that way, merging layers and rasterizing, just to keep everything cleaner, and it's more simple for you to understand. Okay, so we have the back, and in the other layer we have just the cutout of the car. I think I want to add like a general foggy ambient, and that is going to be really easy, even without using brushes. I'm just going to create a new layer, and I'm going to fill that layer with, not with white, maybe I'm going to grab this tone, see, could be about there. So it's not completely white, it's just the tone of the foreground, about there. And I'm just going to fill with the bucket everything. And I'm going to make it, again, a mask. I'm going to grab the gradient tool, linear gradient tool, and I will go, let's say, from here to about here, maybe increasing a little bit the amount so you can see before and after. So it all adds a little bit of mood, and also the reflection is not getting so much attention. It fades a little bit, so I think that's great. Now, we are going to place some mountains behind the car. So, of course, for that, we have to place a layer between our back and our cutout, right? So let's create a new layer. I'm going to call this mountain 1. And now we are going to use some brushes and stamps. So we are right now, here we have the brush tool. We are right now in the basics, brushes, basics. But here you have plenty of options, and here you have the Dreamphography brushes. Here we have like different mountains, options, some particles, snow, dust, more dust, fog, smoke. We have moons, we have trees. I mean, there are a lot of brushes you can use. And let's say we're going to start with this mountain. And it's pretty big. I'm going to make it smaller. Let's say, oh, I just changed the color. We want to paint with black, and later we are going to play with the opacity. Let's say maybe something right there. We are going to place it. It doesn't matter because we can move it and we can stretch it if we want. It's just a silhouette, so it doesn't matter. And I think I'm going to even place it a little bit lower. So we are going to place two layers of mountains to create the illusion of depth. But first of all, I'm going to create a new layer on top of mountain, and I'm going to call it trees. Okay, trees. This mountain will have some trees, and of course we have also some brushes with different kind of trees. We are going to do a mix. So of course these are not going to be, you can see here, the trees. These are really big. We just want the idea that there are some trees at the distance, maybe something like that. Of course, we are going to paint with black and in a new layer. So let's start this way. And this is really random. Again, it's just to give you the idea. Some of the brushes are pressure sensitive and also have variations of size. and opacity. And of course, you can tweak that in the brush settings. This is just to give you a quick idea. Maybe it's a little bit taller, something like that. Now let's go to the other side. And now you see why we did the cutout, right? And you can see here it's not perfect. I think we are going to do it again. We're just going to refine our selection. But you get the idea, something like that. I'm just painting with the digital pen, but you can do as well with the mouse. I'm going to select a different kind of tree, maybe this one, much smaller, just to have a nice, random variation of them. Now in the other side, we don't want to leave a pattern, so mixing the brushes helps. Something like that. And maybe even one more tree, let's say this one, make it smaller. And maybe in the top. Of course, we are going to play with the opacity, but first let me just take care of the cutout, because I think we have to make a better cutout. So I'm just going to delete the one we had. I'm going to copy again the back, and I'm going to place it on top. Let me just take this one out so we can do it all over again. So again, I'm going to grab selection tool. I think it's okay. Now we're going to refine our selection. You can move here the feather or smooth the borders of the selection. I'm just going to paint over the edge to make smoother transition. It's looking better. Going to apply it. And now again, I'm going to make a mask. And I will keep my mask if I want to retouch something. I'm not going to throw it away. So I'm going to deselect and let's see if it looks better. So now we are going to make a second layer of trees, but first I'm going to merge again, just to keep it clean, the mountains with the trees. I'm just going to merge both, merge selected. So now we are going to make a new layer, and this is going to be called Mountain 2. Let's see the first one. Okay, and just to see where I'm going to place it, with the brush, again, we want it in black, and this is too big, maybe something like that. Just going to place it there and just stretch it a little bit, and I'm going to take it even lower. Okay, just to see what I'm doing, I'm going to lower just the opacity right now. Yeah, it's all about the composition. I don't want it to go over the top of the car. This gives us a sense of a lower angle, so I'm just going to place it right there. I'm going to hide the first mountains and to raise the opacity, and we're going to do the same, just a new layer, and I'm going to paint some trees. Let's see, these ones. To zoom in, my brush with black, smaller. And because these are like farther away, I think they should be even smaller, but I mean, You can take all the time you want. It's like taller ones. Okay, let me just select now maybe whatever. This one, smaller, up there. Just to break the pattern of the other trees. Maybe something like that. Trees at the distance. So the thing is that because, well, first of all, I'm just going to merge both of them. So now we have 1 and 2. So because they are overlapping, both of them, I want to take out the information of the mountains 2 from the mountain 1. So I'm going to select the mountain 1. I'm selecting mountain 1, trees and mountain, and I'm going to take away that from mountain 2. So I'm just going to hit delete, and you will see what I mean. If I hide mountain 1s, I just keep with the area where the trees and mountain 1 are not shown. Okay, this is helpful because now we are going to work with opacity. So now it doesn't matter if they overlap. And one rule here is when you are trying to create depth in an image, the rule is that everything that it's near to the camera, to your eyes, is going to be darker or more saturated. And everything that it's going away from your eye is going to be more faded. That meaning it's going to be less saturated or lighter. So let's say if we are going for mountain 1, let's say like about, let me just hide mountain 2, like about, let's say 25%, that means that mountain 2 should be less because it's farther away than 25, 11, okay, let's say. So this gives us the illusion of depth, that there are things far away in the distance. It's looking cool. I think I'm going to make a little bit more of room in the top. So I'm going to, again, to crop. I'm just going to make a little bit more of room for the sky, maybe around there. Car cutout to keep just everything in order. This is like fog. Let's call it general fog. Now we are going to add a new layer. This is going to be behind the 2 mountains, and we are going to call it like sky. And this is going to be also really simple. I'm just going to fill the complete layer with black. So X, or here with the arrows. I'm gonna grab the bucket tool and with black, just fill everything. So for this one, and again, just going to do a mask, gradient tool, and I'm going to come from here, maybe to here. It's a little bit darker. So this is a really good way to have control over your layers. I'm going to lower a little bit the opacity, something like that. Okay, so this is the sky. This is just for the background. And we are going to make now another new layer. Let's call this clouds. So I have here some brushes and stamps of clouds. You can paint them, by hand, or we can just grab, we are going to use this one, sky number 3, and just make sure to select the clouds. And of course, they have to be white, brush tool, a little bit smaller. Doesn't matter, you can just, the clouds, let's say about there. I'm also going to do a mask. And again, the gradient tool about there. You could also play with the opacity. I think I'm going to leave it there. So next, in top of the clouds, this is a night scene. That's why I, in the studio, wanted this kind of soft light. It's overcast day, and we are going to, well, overcast night, okay? Because we are going to place now a moon, new layer, moon. And I also have some stamps, brushes of a moon. The third one, this one, has a glow included. You can see it here. And it's going to be much, much smaller. And because our background is really, really light, it doesn't show too much. But let's place it just here. And what we can do is duplicate this layer, maybe 2 times. Okay, one more time. And I'm going to merge 3 of them, merge selected. And now it stands a little bit more. So we can place it, let's say, around here. But of course, the clouds should be in front of them. So again, just a layer mask, gradient tool, and let's say from here to here, just a tad. I'm gonna move it a little bit lower, maybe about there, and just lower the opacity a little. Going to save. There we go. Now let's put a new layer. Let's add some birds. I know it's at night, and you will normally don't see birds, but let's think that there are some birds. So again, the brush tool, we are painting with black, and at the end, I think we have this layer. Yes, you can see the birds, and these are too big, of course. They are far away in the distance. So let's place them here. But I think there are too much birds, so I'm just going to zoom in. And again, a layer mask, birds, a mask. And just with a regular brush, basic brush, it doesn't matter too much. This one, number 16. I'm going to hide some of those birds. Remember that in layer mask, everything you paint with black, okay, is going to be hide. But if I change to black or white, whatever, you are going to reveal it. Okay, hide it or reveal it if you paint again. So want to just hide some of these birds, maybe this one, and this one, and this one, just like that. And of course, because they are in the distance, they should be lighter, right? Maybe about there. Okay, let's zoom out. And the other thing is that we should add, well, it could be motion blur, but they are really, really far away in the distance. But we are just going to add a little bit of blur. So let's go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and maybe just there, 0.2. We could go further and do the same for the mountains, but I think they are okay right there. And now we're going to, again to the car cutout, and in the layer mask, not in the layer, not in the image, but in the layer mask, we are going to take a little bit of the windows, make them a little bit more transparency, so the background could show a little bit more. So I'm just going to grab a basic brush, let's say this 32. I'm going to make it a little bit harder, maybe around there, smaller. And we have to paint with black because we want to take away a little bit of the windows. I'm also going to lower the flow to have more control. So maybe something like that. Just a little bit. Again, quick and dirty. Just to have a little bit of the background, those mountains, and to bring together better the image. I think that looks better. Let's add now some fog, extra fog, but this will be in front of the car. Let's place a new layer on top of the cutout, and let's call it fog over. And with our brush, painting with white, going to the Dreamphography brushes, and we have here some dust. We have, let me see, some smoke and fog. Let's use this one, a little bit smaller. Remember, this is going on top. You can always lower even the flow or the opacity. It's a little bit here on top. So let's see before and after. I think a little bit more in that rear. Going to lower the opacity, just a touch, maybe right there. And I'm also going to place some foggy, let's say, light, but underneath the cutout. Let's name this fog under. And the same thing with our brush. But now I'm going to grab, we have this kind of light. I'm going to make it bigger. Maybe around there. See the before and after. It separates a little bit more the car from the background, and you can see it shows as well in the windows. I'm going to lower the opacity as well, maybe right there. Let's add a little bit of storytelling. So for that, I'm going over the cutout. I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to, not sure how you call it, let's say bullet shots. Let me zoom in to the front shield, and now we are going to paint again our brush with white, and down here we have like different shots. Let's go for this one, number 3. Of course, they are huge, so let's just make it a lot smaller. Maybe something like this will make sense, and let's place them there. And our car is like in perspective, right? So I'm just going to mess around with the mesh warp just to go along with the perspective of the car. Doesn't have to be perfect, maybe something like that. And I mean, you can keep adding, more bullet holes. Just going to lower again the opacity so they don't stand out so much, maybe around there. It's all about the values you are working with. As you can see, we are working just with white and black, and again, to create this sense of depth, the things that are closer to our eye should look darker, and the things that are far away should look lighter. Of course, we are in the water, we have reflections, and that's why it's like lighter. But when we go through the color grading, we are going to darken a little bit the foreground to create that illusion of depth even further. Well, I think that our final artwork is done. we use like several brushes, but you can see again, it's just playing with layer masks, gradients and brushes. And it's a really, really easy exercise, I think, to do. And I mean, you can try many different things using the Dreamphography brushes or just the a lot of brushes that are included as well in Affinity Photo, Affinity Photo 2. I think I'm going just to make, yeah, just a small detail to add some. I don't have bubbles here, but I have this. I think is this one is dust, number 4. So I'm just going to create a new layer on top of the car cutout, and I'm going to just call it bubbles. And forgive me if I'm like spelling something wrong. My English is not the best one, as you can hear, but I'm making my best effort here. So, okay, some bubbles, and again, the brush. But let's take this one, much, much smaller. Let me see if we paint with black. This has like 2 different colors. I think this is really small. Make it a little bit bigger. Let me see. This is not showing. Okay, I'm just taking away the fog just to see what I'm doing. Again, in the bubbles. And just here where the wheel of the car meets the water, just adding this little detail to make it sit there. Okay, just a little bit. So before and after. I cannot see the other one, so let's just keep it that way. Before and after. And even with the general fog, you can see that little detail there. So maybe we don't have bubbles, but just using a texture or a brush for doing another kind of effect could work. It's just about imagination. So before we go into the color grading, it's going to be really, really simple. Just using the adjustment layers, I'm going to save the artwork. And remember that the adjustment layers will affect everything that it's below. So I want to apply this color grading, these adjustments overall the image. So I'm going to place the adjustment layers just on top of all the layers we have right now. So let's go with the first one. Maybe we can go with a lens filter just to give like a tint to the image. I want cool tones. So this is at night, maybe around here, and just about there. That will be the first one. Maybe for the second one, we could try the split toning. Let me see. So here I will add some hue to the highlights and some hue to the shadows, maybe around there. So I think, but for both, normally you will choose like complementary colors, but I want to keep this really kind of monochromatic. So for the highlights, I will choose this like teal tone. And for the shadows, I will also use like a bluish tone, maybe around here. But I will lower that saturation and maybe increase a little bit the balance between both. Say something like that. And you always have as well the control of, just lowering the opacity if you feel it's too much. Or the advantage of working with adjustment layers is that you can just click again, double tap there, and you can further adjust this. So let's go for a third one. And now I'm going to play with the curves. And normally the curves you will do, the S, something like this. But I am going to go the other way. Okay, so I want to make my highlights a little bit darker. Well, maybe something like that. And my shadows just a little bit lighter, because this foggy scene, just a little bit. Now maybe I'm going to play with the labels. So my gamma will go a little bit higher, and I don't want to. I kind of want the black muted, something about there. And again, this is not a recipe. This is about taste, your own taste. This is your own story, right? So I think we are going to do another label adjustment, but now we are going to go the opposite, something like that. As well, the gamma, to make a little bit more of contrast, maybe something like that. And I'm going to use a layer mask with again the gradient tool, just to apply this label. And now I'm going to grab the gradient tool, and I'm just going to apply maybe just about here. Maybe just about there. Well, and the last layer adjustment, I mean, we can keep playing here, but I think I'm going to just grab this one black and white. And of course, because our image is mostly done with bluish tones, here I can just add a little bit of light, and for the shadows, a little bit darker. And I'm going to change the blending mode. You have like ton of options. Maybe it's an overlay or a soft light. I think I like the overlay, and just going to lower the opacity a little. I think that's it. Maybe we can still, play around with the values. I think that the first mountains should be a little bit lighter, maybe around there, 21. And for the second mountains, even lighter. As well, the birds. Oh, I thought we have, let's see, the birds should be lighter as well. So much about there. And I think it's we have a lot of dead space. That's also depends on you. But I think I'm going to crop maybe around there. Something like that. So there we go. We have our final image. You can still go and playing and maybe doing more color grading or adding stuff that tells a story. I mean, this is just an old card like in the middle of a lake, and for some reason it has some bullets, in the windshield, and everything tells a story, even if you only have one frame to tell it. So I think you have enjoyed this creative session with Affinity Photo 2. It was a real pleasure for me. Hopefully everything I have speak through this creative session makes sense, and that this some way motivates you to create your images. Again, this is like a really, really simple setup in the studio and a really, really simple post-production workflow. Again, you can see it's just working with brushes and working with layer masks and working with gradients. just a really simple color grading by using the adjustment layers. So thank you so much for being here with me, and I hope you have a great time. Bye bye.